Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well on week 2 of the quarantine. So, I wanted to check back in on that poll that I put on my Instagram last week, in which I asked people how the quarantine had affected their relationship so far. And I was really encouraged, and I can't say all that surprised by the results of the poll. So, last week I showed that 87% of people reported a positive impact on their relationship since starting the quarantine. So I want to talk about that, but I definitely also want to speak to the other percentage of people who found that their relationship was under more stress since the quarantine started. So for the people who noticed an impact, I want to talk a positive impact. I want to talk a little bit about why. So I think that a lot of us live like two ships passing in the night. We are so scheduled, so over busy, so overworked, so overcommitted that we end up seeing our partner and really only having quality interactions with them at such a small percentage each day. And so if you are in the relationships where you're both home a lot more and you're getting to spend a lot more quality time together, you may find a really positive impact on your relationship. And I think that's the reason why. I was also really encouraged by the people who sent me direct messages saying that they had noticed a huge positive impact on their sex life. So if you are in that category, keep up the good work, keep up the fun, keep your mind open and curious, keep learning about each other, and really savor this time to have more quality time in your relationship, because that will definitely carry forward when things go back to normal. Now, if you are in the percentage of people for whom this quarantine has had a negative impact on your relationship, I want to talk a little bit about why that may be. So the first reason is if you were already undergoing some stress or conflict in your relationship, going through a really highly stressful and unexpected experience like this can serve to heighten that stress and anxiety that you may have been experiencing. So, if you were experiencing communication difficulties before this started, chances are those are going to become exacerbated. At a deeper level, if you had, maybe deeper underlying issues in yourself or in your relationship that were unresolved, again, going through something sudden, intense, and just highly stressful like what we're facing now with Corona can be very triggering. So if you're the kind of person to shut down under times of stress, or if you're the kind of person to become overly anxious or controlling during times of stress, you may notice that gone up to the nth degree right now. And so that can definitely create conflict in a relationship. If you were the kind of couple who was always out and about, socializing, spending time with friends, and now you're finding that it's just the two of you stuck at home, you may have to use this as an opportunity to discover a new side to your relationship that perhaps you weren't really forced to examine before. And so that can feel kind of daunting at first, but again, it can also be a really positive opportunity to grow together. A lot of times couples have different ways of handling stress. So, you may be the kind of person who takes the cleaning and sanitization and just lets yourself get overworked or I should say overly stressed and overly anxious about that and takes it to the extreme. Whereas you may be in a relationship with a partner who tends to minimize or dismiss. That can make you feel sort of alone and unheard in your relationship, make you feel like your feelings don't really matter, which can create a real polarity. And then finally, the other reason this creates conflict for couples is because you're having to totally renegotiate your work-life balance. I mean, that's something that my partner and I are figuring out right now. We had to finally have a sit down and come up with a new schedule of when we were each going to spend time working versus taking care of our daughter, so that neither of us would feel like we were completely losing momentum in the things that we wanted or needed to do. So I get it, I'm right there with you. I want to talk for just a second about some strategies you can use to help with that conflict. So the first thing I want you to do is to practice self-compassion. When we get really charged, or when we're in our defense strategies, or when we're feeling shut down, without even realizing it, we can experience a lot of negative self-talk. So I think it's helpful to start by just having some compassion for where you are right now. We are all very impacted by what's going on, and rather than saying the shoulds or the coulds or the I'm not good enough for thinking this way, or I should be handling it differently, or why is my relationship falling apart, or I'm never gonna heal from this, that kind of negative self-talk does not serve us at all. So you wanna start by just having a little bit of compassion for yourself as we are embarking on a completely surreal and unprecedented time in our history. So start by just loving yourself and just accepting where you are in the moment. The second thing you want to do is set aside some time to talk with your partner. Once you've been able to, I think that we can really only name our feelings when we're coming from a place of self-compassion. So once you've been able to do that and you can identify where you are at the moment, you can more easily communicate those feelings to your partner. And you want to practice empathy. Even though you may not agree on everything, it's important to express to your partner that you understand where they're coming from. And then the next thing you want to do is try to externalize the problem. So rather than seeing this as a blame game or as a you versus them conflict, this is a conflict that none of us really, had the tools to handle before. So when you externalize the problem as something that isn't happening within your relationship, it's happening outside, you can then work together as a team to try to come up with strategies against that problem. Once you've been able to do that, then you want to talk about some concrete strategies that will work for you. Now, that does not mean that you have to agree to everything that your partner requests. It does mean that you have to give them space to express what they, hope would want to come out of this. And it does mean that you have to keep the dialogue open. So, come back to the conversation when we're dealing with something like this. It's not usually a one-time conversation. We have to come back to it over and over again. So I tell couples to check in like every day or every other day. I used to say once a week, but I think right now we need to check in every day. So sit down after the kids go to bed and just talk about what you're feeling that day, what worked well that day, what felt challenging, and then what you can do tomorrow. Now, I wanted to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we talked about what's working well for people. We talked about some areas where people may be experiencing conflict, but there are other couples who may be experiencing more intense, whether it's emotional, verbal, or physical abuse. And going through something like this can really intensify that. So for example, alcohol sales have gone up a lot, and that is something that as a therapist is very concerning. For a lot of people, a little bit of alcohol in moderation is not a big deal, but for couples who are experiencing emotional or physical violence in their home, that can significantly exacerbate that violence. So if you know someone who is in an abusive relationship, just make sure that you check on them a little bit more than usual and, offer support where you can. I had a few DMs asking for resources to use during this time to help with reconnection emotionally and physically. So for those of you who are finding yourself with a little bit of downtime on your hands, a few books I recommend for couples are anything by John Gottman. I like his books because they're easy to understand and follow, and they're usually tons of exercises that you can do on your own and with your partner. If you feel like there are maybe deeper issues coming up for you in your relationship, then you may want to check out some of Sue Johnson's work. For example, her book, Hold Me Tight, has 7 conversations for a lifetime of love. And so you can go through each of those conversations to hit those deeper wounds that may be getting triggered for you in this moment. If you are wanting some help with your sex life, you're finding a little extra time on your hands. I can't wait to see how many babies are born, by the way, in December, January, February. Some fun books are, I would say, for female sexuality, Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski is a great one. I say it's for female sexuality, but really I think men and women need to read that book because there are a lot of differences, and she just does a great job of breaking those down in a way that's very easy to understand. For the guys, if you're wanting to, increase your knowledge base a little bit, I like She Comes First by Ian Kerner. It's full of techniques and advice for men with female partners. I'm not a huge fan of like tips and tricks type books, because I really think your best manual is the conversation you have with your partner. Everybody's different, but this is a book that can definitely get the conversation going, so you may want to check that out. If you're wanting something you can both use together, I think kind of a fun book is 101 Nights of Hot Sex by Laura Korn. The pages are sealed for him and for her, and so you can take turns opening up a page, and it'll give you an idea of something that you can try with your partner, and of course they won't see it because you're the only one who opens it. So I hope that helps, and if anyone has any comments or other ideas, or if you had a question that I didn't answer, definitely send me another message. I'm gonna try to put these videos out periodically during this time, and I look forward to talking with you more. And just remember, we're all going through this together. A lot of the advice I'm giving you is advice I'm taking myself. I get it. And we'll just take it a day at a time. One other thing I forgot to mention, which is really important too, I'm gonna be launching an online workshop within the next few weeks, hopefully. So stay tuned for more information on that, because again, if you have a little downtime, I think this is gonna be a really, really good one for you. It's about, so one other thing I completely forgot to mention in terms of resources is the online workshop that I am gonna be launching within the next few weeks. So definitely if you're a couple looking for some solutions on how to improve the emotional and physical intimacy of your relationship, I got you covered. Stay tuned for more information about that.